Killers of the Flower Moon when eventually it will be released on Apple Plus, which is nice because it's more accessible for everyone. But yes, and thank you so much for having me, and I appreciate it.
Okay, like the name of a movie made in Colombia, everything started for the end. We are going to start for the end. Kaira, what can you tell us about Killers of the Flower Moon? Anything. Congratulations, I had seen the pictures.
Bravo,
Thank you so
bravo.
much.
No, tell us wherever. We will let you talk. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Yeah, no, I'm really excited about it. It's kind of a dream cast and like a dream director to work with, so I'm really excited to be a part of it.
And it's crazy. And before I let you with John, because you got a really cool career. I mean, a lot of projects, a lot of directors. And it's crazy because I know that you before worked on a small role in a movie of Clint Eastwood, but now this is a bigger role in a bigger movie, yeah?
Yeah, yeah. I've done a lot of smaller things, which, I feel like I learned a lot on every project. So it all built up. I've been in the industry, I want to say for about 15 years I've been acting. So this was the first time I got a big job, and it was just like I said, it was a dream come true. So I'm excited to see the next step in my career. Like, where's it going to go after this? Because I don't know.
We will wait, but I know you can say a lot more. But thank you, and I let you with John. John, dale.
Como un inicio para que esto continúe y es sobre Northsiders. Ella realiza el rol de Sinova, entonces quería preguntarle sobre la trama se basa en sobre qué piensa la gente de nosotros. Entonces la gente suele hacer esta pregunta, ¿qué piensan del cine de la persona? Entonces te pregunto, ¿qué es lo más característico que la gente deba saber de usted?
Okay, I know John said a lot, but I will sum it up. It's about Northsiders. But taking the subject of the movie, that is more about knowing the people, uh, what are the aspects that people need to know about you, Cara, as an actress, as a person?
I really want acting to be something more than just like you see me on the screen, because as like an indigenous person, for me, there's so many other things like we have missing and murdered indigenous women up here where it's such an epidemic that we have so many, and it's not just women, it's girls, it's men, it's everyone that's like indigenous where they go missing, and then we try to get the help and the resources, and then we can't get that. And it's just, and that's one of the frustrating things that actually correlates with the movie, because the movie is about missing and murdered indigenous people, and then it's the fact that it's still happening today and we're still getting the same response as like there's no help. Like we have to try to find ways, and I feel like that you see in so much of the news, like people are begging, like, can we just get help? And then we don't get it. And so I feel like that definitely correlates with the movie. Something that was a passion of mine even before was, that, and mental health is such a big thing for me too, and I feel like this movie deals with so many different aspects of that, and I love that it's going to be on such a major platform that people will see it, and I'm hoping that that sparks conversations of like, this has been going on for so long. Is there like, how can people actually help and get involved and stop this from happening more?
Debo decirle que hay un corto en el que me pareció muy importante que se llama Capítulo 1, habla sobre los feminicidios. Entonces, muchas preguntas se hicieron a través de esta historia sobre si esta historia puede ayudar a las personas, por ejemplo, a las mujeres a poder este, evitar todos estos casos. Entonces, te pregunto que si es así en realidad o qué otro factor importante le agregas a esta historia.
No, this your answer can be added to also the subject of short film called Chapter One, because it's like it's about feminicides. I hope I pronounce it right. And so I know it's difficult But yeah, we know that movies let us add us more topics for the debate. But do you think that this short film can also help people to get conscience? I don't know, maybe help women. How do you see it? Because there are a lot of subjects. Not there are not only the killing of the indigenous people, but also we got this short film that are about another type of violence that sadly still existing nowadays.
Let me see if I can. You're asking about the violence that still continues from then, or I'm sorry.
Yes, but not only towards indigenous people, but talking about chapter one towards women.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely, it was something that I feel like society always like, encourages women to like find a man. And then in this case, chapter one, you find a man and he's gonna murder you. So so it's definitely like it is the violence against women is such it is such a thing that like it I just I'm like it's a such a problem, and like these women are trying their best and like they like a lot of like we're talking about with murdered indigenous women today is they don't have any place to turn to. That's the same back then when the movie what is based, which is the 1926 era, is it's completely different. And like natives didn't have or indigenous people didn't have any rights. Like if you read the book, they talk about how as native people, they had white guardians that basically that told them where to spend their money, what they could eat. For indigenous people in this film, I'm really hoping that they see that they had no rights, that, that these, women, these men, that these families are getting torn apart by this violence, by the colonization of basically they got money and people got greedy and thought that they didn't deserve it. And so it really shows such a terrible point in time that like it still is happening, that just people don't talk about it, which is the crazy thing. And that's honestly one of the biggest things I'm hoping that this film does is get conversations going, then people realize like this is still happening. Like there's these terrible, you know, violence towards indigenous people, towards women, towards, that the law just looks the other way. And so it's very frustrating. So I'm hopeful that that will make conversations with that and hopefully action behind those conversations. It's a little intimidating because I almost feel like his name and his legacy is like this huge thing itself. So like when you meet him as a man, you're a little like intimidated, but he was the kindest, like funniest person. And I loved working with him because like sometimes you don't know when you go to work with somebody how they're going to be. And with him, he was so collaborative. Like if there was, especially like with the working with, me as an indigenous person, like we would tell them like, oh, that's not how we would do that. And he would be like, okay, well, how would you do it? Do it that way. So he was very collaborative and very open to us, I guess, educating him and just teaching him, being like, okay, well, at a funeral, we wouldn't do that. We would do this. And then he'd be like, okay, good to know. And then he would change it to where it was accurate, and there's things where I'd be like, I don't understand this, or I'd be like, I feel like my character would do this. And we would talk it out and he'd be like, perfect. Yeah, let's do that. But because he was so generous and kind. And like, I loved it. And he was adorable. He's so tiny. He's just all eyebrows and I love it. And he's just so sweet. When I got the job because like, we already knew that those three were working on it, so when you get the job, you're like, oh my God, I'm going to be with these amazing, huge people. And then, when you get on set, you have to just kind of be like, they're just people. Let me focus on the scene, so it was nice because everyone was so down to earth and so kind and so generous that like you didn't like, once you got over the fact that it's Leonardo DiCaprio, or it's Robert De Niro, then it's just like, okay, they're just cool, chill, kind people, which was amazing. And so it makes it so much easier to work with when you're not like, oh my God, they're DiCaprio, freaking out the whole time. When you're associated with a Martin Scorsese movie, all of a sudden people expect something more out of you, expect like another level. So I am excited to, I guess, see what the next step is because, it's a place that I've never been before. And so I am very excited. And I mean, having a Martin Scorsese film on your resume is never going to be a bad look. So, right. Yeah. It's just, I'm really excited to see what's next because and honestly, I'm really excited to see the film because I've seen little clips of it because I've had to do like voiceover for a couple words that got kind of weird. But so I've seen like small little clips and they just make me so excited to see the whole thing together. And apparently there have been producers and stuff and like executives with Apple who have seen the full film and they say that like it's beautiful. So I am so excited to see it until I started auditioning. Once I heard that like, oh, Martin Scorsese is going to make this native film about based off a book called Killers of the Flower Moon, I'd never heard of it. So I immediately went out and bought the book and I read it like cover to cover within a couple days. And it's one of those books it's actually very hard to read because it is so upsetting. But it's also one of those things where it's like I couldn't put it down because I'm like because it's so upsetting at the same time, because you can't like believe that like this is actually happening. And the more the story unfolds, the more you're like, this is literally insane that this is a real story and this is really happening. So it was a wake up call, and I'm so glad that he's making this movie. So glad. Yeah, there's definitely like that there's definitely a difference between New York and LA. Like everyone's like LA is so chill and laid back, and New York's very uptight. So I haven't spent enough time in New York to like be able to like definitely pinpoint the differences. So I'm curious like if I'm gonna have the opportunity to be in New York and like actually be like, okay, I get it now.
Una película que se llama Proximity, que es algo que yo digo, ¿cómo es posible que le hicieron de esta forma? Es increíble porque habla sobre qué es lo que nos espera a nosotros, bueno, la sociedad, los seres humanos, cuando descubramos un poco más sobre el espacio. Entonces, pero habla también sobre el tema ovni, pues ese tema tan extenso. Yo te quiero preguntar sobre qué es lo que desde su perspectiva puede saber o usted puede de pronto dar como a entender de cómo van a ser todo eso, porque ya son evidencias reales que se ven. Entonces, desde su opinión, ¿cómo crees que serían eso y también referencias pues en película?
And now John is asking about proximity. We know that this movie deals with topics that some people call conspiracy, some people call reality. So, in your point of view, what is your position about the subject of this movie? And of course, tell us more about your role in proximity.
Yeah, proximity. That role actually was a fun role because I had a friend who was the casting director on it, and I think they lost someone or they just needed someone really quick, and they're like, "Can you do this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course," So I showed up, and I didn't really know much about the film when I first started, but once I actually sat down and watched it, I'm like, aliens, love it. So I love that like this and the twist at the end about why the aliens here. I was like, that's interesting. That's an interesting take. So it was cool. Like everyone I worked on, everyone on the film that I worked with, can't talk, was so nice, and it was just such a fun environment. And like, I think I was only on set for one day. But I do love that, like, they're bringing up questions of, like, the fact that religion is such, like, it can be such a universal thing, and it's such, like, a curious thing that, like, maybe someone from the outside looking in might not understand it and might not understand, like, okay, why do so many people believe in this? And it's kind of funny that it's aliens because like some people just don't believe in aliens and some do. And so it's like some people believe in God, some don't. And so I think the parallel was interesting on that one. Playing things that you'll never get to be. Like I'm never gonna be a serial killer, like hopefully. So like if I play one, then that's kind of like it's almost like it's a life that I would never live on my own. Just like with horror, I'm hoping very much so that I'm never involved in a real life horror where, I'm like running from someone who's going to murder me. So it's like, it's interesting to like live in these spaces that, that maybe you might not be. And it brings like a different, I guess, like kind of like the psychological aspect of it too. Like, okay, fear, like what does that do to a person? And fear is so universal, as far as horror. And then with sci-fi, like who isn't curious about what else is out there, And so I absolutely, they are some of my favorite genres is
Yeah.
horror, especially sci-fi, paranormal stuff. I love it.
Una noticia muy importante que yo debo felicitarte sobre el tema de Willfire. Willfire es un temazo de Michael Martin y que trata sobre todo ese tema de no solo del lejano oeste y también de cosas de lo que es la familia. Yo te quiero preguntar sobre cuál es tu percepción sobre esta canción y también, cómo usted denomina el tema familiar referente a las películas, a lo que han evolucionado del campo, de todo. Si te gusta este ambiente o eres más de ya una persona que disfruta la ciudad y todo.
John got a question, but I will add something from Adrian said. Because John is asking about the music video that you appear in Wildfire. He's asking that did you love that song? Did you love the subject that it deals? But I got a question also, because Adrian was talking about a kind of terror that is more spiritual and that indie terror that is in the States. But are you interested, sorry, in working about this subject in this subgenre of terror called the Wendigo? You know that all the legends that appears about the Wendigo, and I love movies that deals with that subject. So please tell me about Wildfire and Wendigo.
Well, Wildfire, I got that. It was kind of funny because I wrapped filming on Killers of the Flower Moon, and on a Thursday, I came home on a Friday. My manager reached out and was like, "You're going back to Oklahoma on Monday." So it was literally like that quick of a turnaround. I didn't have a chance to like read the script or anything. They basically offered it to me because it was like a one day gig where I got to play the mom of her real name's Chevelle. She was like on one of those famous like I can't remember if it was The Voice or not. I wish I would have paid more attention. But she was on a show like that where she got this notoriety. So she was the main actress in that film where I played her mom. But I was in it really quick, and then they did like a whole music video and stuff with that. And I had actually never heard the song until they told me that that's what the movie was about. Yeah. And then the Wendigos, yeah, there's so many legends about that. And like it's excuse me, sorry. Yeah, it's definitely like a Wendigo and a Skinwalker are kind of like the two common like horror staples up here that a lot of native cultures, they have a version of it, and it's always like this terrible thing that's going to basically murder you if you do anything wrong. So I think for me, like I love different genres and I would love playing in different genres. For me, it's all about the script. Like I've had to turn down a couple jobs because I'll start reading it, and within 10 pages, I'm like, this person's never even read a book before. Like, how did they get this? Like, how are they writing this script? So it's definitely like, for me, if the story's good, like I'll play any genre, and like, it's so, I love, and sometimes I would love to do like a slasher because it's like more physical. You have like that, it's just a whole different set of challenges that you get to play around with. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's fun to make a slasher. I don't know if it is fun to watch a movie like Terrifier. But here the guys talk with the actor, with David Thornton. Actually, recently I'm coordinated with him to talk with him. If you want, we can try to introduce you. Who knows? Maybe it can be in Terrified 3. That will be fun.
Yeah. That would be fun. No, that'd be awesome. I always love like new connections and meeting new people.
Yeah, no, correct. In fact, we not only got the look to talk with David, but he tell us. I mean, he like, sorry, it sounds. He confirmed us that yes, there will be a Terrifier 3, but Damien is writing it now, so we don't know how long it will take. I know he got more money to do more creative killings, but yeah, no, and not only a Terrifier. I don't know, or a movie like Bona Tomahawk. In fact, we talked with Michael Pare this weekend, and we talked about working with Craig Saller. What, John, déjame hacer esta pregunta.
Dale, dale.
Knowing that your career now will open more with this Scorsese movie and more projects, there is like a dream project that you got in mind, like, oh my God, oh my gosh, I really need to do this kind of movie so keep solidifying my career or series. I don't know.
Not necessarily like a particular one. Like there's people I'd like to work with, like, like Baz Luhrmann, love anything he does. So it's like, I would love to work with someone like him. But part of it too is the fact that like, because I am Native American, I think I would love to bring like a TV show or a film that is like Native American, it's written by natives for natives, about natives, hires natives. Like, I feel like that's something that's kind of missing in the industry, is because we get a lot of stories told about us, but we don't have a lot of stories that we get to tell about ourselves. So I think for me, it's more about like finding good and accurate scripts and finding scripts that like, because a lot of times what they'll do is they'll write for Native Americans, and then at the last minute, they'll be like, oh, we need a Native American writer to look at this and see if we got things right. But by that point, it's like, it's almost too late, because it's better than nothing. But also like, there's so much that is misinterpreted or it's just incorrect, that, a lot of times these Native writers, because I have a lot of friends that are writers that are Native as well. So like they come up and they're hitting walls because they're trying to tell the people like, this isn't accurate, or this is how it's done, or you need to do this, or you need to do this. And they're like, oh no, we don't want to do any of that. We just want you to sign off and say that this is okay. And it's very frustrating for, a lot of Native writers and actors and filmmakers, because we're not getting the correct representation. And mental health is such a huge issue among natives, because a lot of times we don't have the resources, or like, the government, or whoever it is that's supposed to take care of this kind of stuff, like they just don't, like their resources are allocated for other things. So then Native Americans have like one of the highest suicide rates. So it's like, it's so important to have this accurate representation on film, on TV, to see natives not in these terrible situations, sad situations all the time, to actually show like, oh, guess what? Natives are funny. They have friends and family that they do fun things with. We're not just always like dying on a trail of tears somewhere, So it is, I think that for me is where I'm excited to work in the future, is in actual Native stuff. Well, I do write on the side as well. A couple of the shows I have, it's funny because the two TV shows that I wrote are both in the paranormal world.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. And like one of them that I'm, and then like I have like a couple movies that I wrote, and they're like, one's a comedy and then one's like a drama. So it's like, for me, it's like, I think the cool thing about being an actor and a writer is like, I'll see something that inspires me, and then like I'll write about it, or I'll like think of like, oh, we should do a short about this, or do a movie about this, or a TV show. And so like for me, it just kind of like all my writing is all over the board. Like I said, I have some horror, I have some comedy, I have some drama, like, where people are sad and dying, and then comedies where it's just the stupidest thing ever. So it's, for me, paranormal, love it, all of it. So it's hard to say. Depends on the day what I feel like writing.
Cara, de hecho, bueno, este es su espacio para que digas tus redes sociales, un saludo para Colombia, también para Argentina y bueno, la foto.
Cara, the camera is yours, so you can say your social media, send a big hi to Colombia, to Argentina, to wherever you want. Invite people, of course, to watch Killers of the Flower Moon or any project. Oh, we got 3 minutes. No, I was going to ask you if you know about the movement of the Cascadian black metal and the Native American black metal. Is crazy because I think other media like music, of course, underground music, like video games, are telling histories not written by the same people, by the same indigenous people. So you are right. Now it's time that the movies.
Well, I enjoyed talking with you guys. Thank you so much for having me. My social media is cara.jade.myers and cara.jade.myers. But yes, definitely watch Killers of the Flower Moon when it comes out. They are supposed to have a theatrical release, and eventually it will be released on Apple Plus, which is nice because it's more accessible for everyone. But yes, and thank you so much for having me, and I appreciate it.
Yes. Gracias por la oportunidad.
I've never been. I know, and it's like on my bucket list of places I want to go. I haven't had the opportunity yet, and so I'm hoping one of these film companies wants to pay me to go down there.
Thank you, Cara. Gracias.
Thank you so much. Gracias.
Bye-bye.
God bless you. Bye bye.
Gracias.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.